Hey everyone, I'm Harv, Ian Harvey, founder of Collective Intelligence, and this is Stuff That Matters Now. Okay guys, welcome back. I am in Napier today with Anna Pierard, and I've just asked her to describe herself and she said tall, so this obviously is going to be a difficult bloody conversation because it's not really what I was after, but good morning, Anna.
I'm just going to make you sweat, Harv, that's all.
That's absolutely...
Don't see why I shouldn't, you shouldn't.
It's not hard to do. This could be the shortest interview podcast ever. Anna is the co-founder of Project Prima Volta, which we will dig into today, and is a really unique, actually I don't know if it is unique, but to me it's unique, and wonderful creation that Anna has started here in Hawke's Bay, and I've been wanting to interview for a wee while. You're incredibly bloody busy and you keep on putting me off. And you tried to put me off last night. I got a text last night at 9 o'clock going, is it still on? Or
well,
going,
you know, it might be Armageddon. You know,
it could be. It could be. Yes, we've got the second wave of coronavirus. But I thought no, and we're doing it.
Yes,
I would have got through roadblocks today just to get this interview.
Fantastic.
Okay, so Anna, yes, your description is tall. That's good, but I'm not talking to you today because you're tall.
Okay.
I want to know about the other shit that you've got that you can't see. So let's just dive straight into, tell me what Project Prima Volta is, please.
So it's probably good. Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, we're being nice now.
I think it's probably quite good to start with a translation which helps you understand why we chose those words. So Sarah Walmsley and I were reflecting on the craft of opera, because that's very central to the Project Prima Volta program, and we recognise that for many people their opportunity to come into contact with the art form was first with us. You know, so for many of the kids that we were working with. And so we called it Prima Volta, which means first time in Italian. Additionally, because we were very mindful of the fact that, you know, for a lot of kids, or for all of us, when we pass through our teenage years, the first times, we have a lot of first times, you know, some of them good, some of them bad, some of them unexpectedly thrilling, and I think for us, you know, we understood that for many teenagers who would work with us, it would be their first time, and it would lead to many more first times, and those incremental kind of growth journeys to do with broadening horizons and travelling in your head and your heart and geographically.
So, and apart from being tall, do you describe yourself as an opera singer?
I do. I think that's a good question. I mean, I was trained with that career path as you know, as my goal. But I think it's, you know, in this day and age, particularly in New Zealand and with the current, you know, sort of limitations on travel, we have one national company and they don't deliver monthly productions in a very strong season. And New Zealand is not a country that's full of, where going to the opera is just, you know, very, very normal for every household. You know, Germany has around 84 A houses. That's only top tier houses. And so their cultural habits are very different. So being an opera singer in New Zealand starts to feel like a hobby.
Right.
Yeah.
You are the first opera singer I have interviewed in this podcast. So there you go. And when did this first arise in you as a kid, that this was something you wanted to do?
Desire to sing? I think probably, I mean, growing up in a household where music was the most important thing, you had to set everything else aside for music. You know, and I was very aware.
What does that look like? Because I've got no idea what that looks like. What does that look like?
So I'm one of 5 kids, and we all had to learn an instrument we all had to. Well, we didn't have to, but we sang a lot together as a family. And I think, probably for my mother, who was at home with us, we were very fortunate to have her at home. It was a great way to reconnect with her kids as they came in from school, and the little ones would be around the piano, and she was a lovely pianist and very active as a musician and director and actor while we were actually being raised. So she had a double life in some ways, but she brought that into the household. So not a lot. I think we all take our coffee black because at some point we couldn't afford milk, but there was always a financial commitment to music lessons because that was what was important.
And singing as a family, that's not, it sounds quite a natural thing to do. But and I know Mara are fabulous at singing together, as families, but it's not something I was brought up with. I think, those things that you're raised with that you just don't question. I totally agree with you about, Māori families. My sort of very short, small experience is that they really know how to connect with each other, and I think that music does that. It really creates the important context. But for you to sort of connect without words, really, just by vibrating. Yeah. And so your 4 siblings, are they still into music as well?
Yeah. I've got another sister, Madeline, who's an opera singer, much more active than I am in London, and she did work regularly at Covent Garden. So the lockdown over there has really affected her immensely in her kind of work life. So she started a diva blog, a cooking blog called a Diva Kitchen, right. I think. So, having to be sort of creative, use her creativity in other ways. And I've got a younger brother who is currently working on a PhD. I think his focus is, because normally when we get together we just joke. Right. We don't sing around a piano. We just, joke or walk dogs. Take the piss out of each other. That's a massive... It's probably our family favourite pastime.
I was going to say, that's a surprise.
No one takes themselves very seriously. And if they do, they get taken down a peg. That's my job, actually. Right, okay. Yeah, so brother...
So singing doesn't make you nice?
I think this world is a competitive one. Not just the singing world, I think the whole world. I was reading something about that this morning. I don't think we can deny that. And I think a good sense of how to move yourself forward when all the odds are against you is something that performance artists understand. And I don't know how that relates to not being nice, but it is being realistic. You really become very realistic about what is or isn't achievable and whether or not, you've got the goods.
There you go. That's what I love about the podcast is that...
People not answering questions?
No, look, I knew you were not going to answer my bloody questions this morning, but when you think about that, that jostling, that's a reality, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's a reality.
Yeah, and I think the biggest casualties come when people refuse to accept it. I think it's sort of reeling away from what is essentially human nature. We're all aspiring to be better than just our makeup, our genetic makeup. We're all aspiring to make good on our sort of genetic legacy. But
look, I heard a woman some years ago that said, "Oh, look, I'm not into politics, and I don't know how to play politics." And I said, "But you went to school." And school is incredibly political. Yeah. And, you get a group of people and we've all got to work out how to be with each other and how to, fit and so forth. Yeah. And, the jostling thing, look, and we're way off subject here, but that's all right, we can get back on subject. But the jostling thing in the commercial world, unfortunately, you end up at times with the biggest wanker being at the top because they have pushed themselves forward, and we've got to work out ways that is not for sure not the way because there is positive jostling and there is negative jostling as well. And when the negative jostling overtakes everything else,
Yeah.
then you end up with a train
Yeah.
wreck. So I'm stuck on these five
Go.
kids.
Oh, really?
Kids singing and with their mother. It's such a wonderful.
Singing and scrapping.
It's such a wonderful vision. I've just dropped my pen. That is such a wonderful vision, Anna, because I was introduced to you by Pauline Milne, and she introduced me to the idea of how good singing is for you in a group and what that does to you. Just explain in your words what that means. When Pauline talked about that, what does that mean to you when people are singing? What does that do for the body?
Well, from a purely sensory point of view, we all know that it feels good. It actually does feel good to sing, or there wouldn't be the whole, I only sing in the shower, or, I'm amazing in the shower, or, ear mic kind of experiences that people have in private. The physical act of singing feels bloody good. You take it, you end up taking a good deep breath instead of this ridiculous kind of the way the way we go about. Well, actually, sometimes that can be good. Just saying.
This is a family show.
It's more about. When we're talking now, we are breathing in a way that's just a top-up game. It's called tidal breathing. So you just breathe in enough to sort of say what you want to say, and it's not conscious. But when we sing, the impact on our sort of, cardio fitness is massive, because we start to breathe deep, and you understand that, maybe there's a correlation there between how bodies are used when you practice yoga, for example, and you breathe deep and through the nose, and you just feel this huge sense of expansion, which actually translates to a sense of power over yourself. And then when that's transformed into phonation that is very resonant, so the air passes back through your resonating chambers, through your chest and oral pharynx and nasal pharynx, and you're creating this sound. The whole process of that is sort of powerful from a personal point of view, but it's also you become part of a community when you sing together, and you sort of reconnect with the people around you who are going through the same experience. And I think this is really evident in community-based singing, as opposed to sort of, my experience of singing in an opera chorus, or as part of an ensemble where the ambition is slightly different. It's not just about your well-being. It's much more about what the composer intended, making sure you articulate the music in such a way as to ensure you're with the conductor, and there are so many other considerations when you're a professional singer. But when you're just singing because it bloody well feels good in a choir, I think you come away from it on a high, and you feel like you could sing an opera after it. So it's very empowering, I think.
I've only experienced that a few times. And at school, and I went to a good old Christian school, boys' school, and we had a fabulous, the headmaster's wife, Faye Norman, was into music, and she was a good bloke, and she played the piano, and she got us singing, and we had to try out for the choir in our first year. Everybody had to, and she said I had an unfortunate voice, and that was the end of my singing.
And how many times have I heard that? Someone swipes you down, and you're just like, right, well, that must be the truth.
That's true.
And what is the phrase? Never take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. Maybe you would have taken advice from her, but when we're young, we just trust that everyone knows better than we do, apart from Eva Maria Aparicio, my daughter. Apart from her. She's a little shit. She just knows everything. So
What's her name?
Eva Maria. She's named after Ave Maria.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we would sing at school with Faye Norman playing the piano, and there was the odd hymn that we could do as a school.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what they were. The tunes were great. The lyrics were spooky, but the tunes were great. And you come in and think, fuck, that was cool.
Yeah,
that was just and you know, 300 boys in a little stadium, and we'd be, and you go, oh, we're good at this, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know whatever it was, the tune, it was just like.
Well, I mean, that begs the question: what makes a good tune? What? And I would say, what makes this tune anthemic? If you think about
new word.
Oh,
new word. What's that word?
We'll go slow.
Thank you.
You know, so when you have the verses in a song, and then you have so a really good example of probably of a songwriter who really knows the power of an anthemic kind of formula in songwriting is Sia, who wrote that song Chandelier or Titanium, or I mean she's not famous in the opera world. I'm
totally blank here.
Clearly not famous in your world.
No.
Anyway, she's she when you get to the chorus, the pitch and intensity of the song just goes up exponentially, and there's something quite amazing when the chorus goes up in pitch, and it sort of racks everyone up. When you think about the songs that are anthems and that really stay with us, you know, they've got those moments. So I think there is a formula there. We are being, you know, manipulated. But it's, you know, these are not new tricks. These have been used for centuries and centuries by composers to heighten people's engagement, and you know.
Look, what's interesting with music for me, Anna, is I can't hear the words because you know I was born with a hearing loss, and even with the hearing aids, it brings it up to about 80%. So, and there are times where I sing along to a song, and people go, What are you singing? And I've got the words totally wrong, but you know it's good. But it's the actual music that does it for me. It's seldom the words; it's the music, and it just does something for me. And I love music. And I love the impact it has on me as a listener, not as a singer, but as a listener. It's just wonderful.
Well, you are as a singer as well. I mean, if people are responding to your performances. Clearly, you are a participant.
It's generally to shut up.
But who cares? Who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit?
You know.
And I love finding new talent. So it's one of the things that Spotify is so good because it throws different stuff up. Yeah. And I found two young Australian musicians recently, and one of them, the most recent one, is a young woman called Tash Sultana, and she's just stunning. Does it all by herself, and she gave a TED talk, and the TED talk was about how she never fitted in anywhere. She's got dreadlocks, and she said she'd go into a shop and they'd immediately think she was shoplifting and all this sort of. And now she's, she's toured the States and so forth, and she's out there, and she's just a one-man band, can play self-taught. Plays 10 different instruments and so forth. And I just look at this young woman and she's just stunning, you know.
Fabulous.
And, you know, there's thousands. Right, so Anna, we're going to restart the podcast now, okay, and get back on track. Okay. Tell me about, is it Prima?
Prima Volta.
Yes, okay, I'm not going to cover that. Tell me about that and where it came from.
So I think obviously when your family has places incredible importance on music education, and you get to enjoy the benefits. So I travelled overseas with the National Youth Choir. Had this wonderful friendship with my friend Sarah Walmsley as part of the National Youth Choir, and had great experiences travelling internationally and performing and being directed by Karen Grills, who was the conductor of the choir, and had a massively high expectation of all of us. And it was probably, actually thinking back, the only environment where there was a high expectation of me, actually, when I really consider it, which is an amazing gift. I mean, obviously my parents had expectations and people had expectations, but that high, you can be part of this national choir. We need you to go to the Choir of the World competition in Wales, which we actually won the New Zealand National Youth Choir in 1999, which sort of changed the lives of everybody who participated, to think that this little choir from New Zealand could...
And in Wales, the place.
Yeah, I know, Wales. And I'm not going to try and do that accent.
But no, that was pretty good. But, I mean, man, they love singing.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And that's really evident. It's very much part of their culture. But in Llangollen. And so having those experiences, I think, at a young age made me really, and also having quite a strong sense of, what was fair and what wasn't, being part of a family of 5 kids. That's, it was like every second phrase, but that's not fair.
Yeah.
But that's not,
Yeah.
But on a sort of deeper, more profound, means the same thing, level, it never sat well with me that I had access to opportunities that other people didn't. If they had, if they met that, if they could have put the work in and had the talent and had the interest and all of those things, if they didn't meet the opportunity with everything that opportunity deserves to be made the most of, then that's a different story.
So you came from a family that had black coffee because it was cheaper, but you also had the privilege of singing.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So not a lot of money, but a lot of opportunity to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think just that, we were very clear on what was important growing up, and I think that's also just not been something I've ever moved away from. So obviously each family has their own set of values, but the rightful access to these sorts of experiences was one of those, not just the access, not just the importance. It's the right for everybody to have that access. And I think Mum, as a music teacher, because she taught when my brother went to school at 5, and I'll get to why Prima Volta started. When she went to high school and started teaching at Sacred Heart College, and the nuns said, we'd love you to come and teach music, and Mum had her letters and drama and piano, so had the skills and had managed 5 kids, which helps. And so she suddenly became our music teacher at Sacred Heart, which is where I went on Napier Hill, and her joy and celebration of all of the other kids there and recognition of their skills and providing opportunities to them, and that being real strong commitment that she made, I think must have played a part in why we decided to do what we did. Yeah, that example. So fast forward a few years. Sorry, I've got a frog. I've got a frog.
Okay, you clear the frog. So
clear.
1999. How old were you then?
Oof. 99. Well, I must have been 18. I don't know. I don't know how old I am.
Okay. No, all right. So you're about 18 in the youth choir in Wales. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I don't know. Yeah. No. Yeah.
You didn't do maths. You did singing.
No, I did singing. Shut up.
All right.
Anyway, and so I realised it can be hard when your parent teachers at a school, because they sort of tell you to shut up all the time because they can tell you off, but they also give other kids a lot of attention as well. And I think that it wasn't that straightforward, but I realised that had an impact. Anyway, so I got into schools. So when I was travelling with the choir, I got into some schools in London to study music. Came back to New Zealand, did some fundraising.
So that's not that easy to do, right? To get into schools in London to sing.
I wouldn't know. I've only got my experience.
Oh, right. Okay, be difficult. All right, so it was a piece of cake. You got it over there.
No, I didn't. I didn't know. It's like when you have your first kid, you don't know how hard it's going to be until you've done it, and then you reflect back and think, okay, maybe it was. So it's all about your mindset, isn't it? So anyway, so that happened, and then I had some scholarship for some living costs, but I had to raise a huge amount of money. So I came home and staged some concerts with another soprano who was going to study in Australia. And then as part of we really wanted to create a concert with scenes in it. This is important. So we went knocked on the door in Napier of the Tai Whenua. And there were some guys there who were not in school for whatever reason. And so we asked if any would be available to be extras in our show, in our fundraiser. And thinking back now, I realise we should have made a donation for their time. But, now I know, running a charity, that the appropriate course of what the appropriate course of action would be. Not just free tickets. Anyway.
But the white girl just...
Oh, yeah, just bowled in there.
Blundered in
I
there,
don't see any problem. Yeah. So, I'm writing that ignorance, day by day. Anyway, so was just totally overwhelmed by the level of commitment, and very clear that if school wasn't for these kids, but they could give 150% to this experience, so being directed on stage, and I'd say to one, okay, this one guy, can you just lie in my arms? That was pre kind of, rules around being alone with someone,
a kid.
A kid. And I don't think we even asked how old he was, and etc. I just need you to lie in my arms, and you just need to be dead. You just need to play dead.
Not be dead, just play dead.
Yeah. And the thing is, we know how hard that is. That's incredibly hard, because you have to be extremely active, almost, to focus, so that you don't suddenly forget and would do something. So he was amazing. The Roman centurion was amazing. These guys just gave so much.
So how old
and they
were
were really
they?
committed.
How old?
Well, I would say school age.
Yep.
But seemed to me
Secondary
to be
school age.
Secondary school age,
Yep.
but seemed to me to be older than that.
Right, but not in school.
Not in school.
Not doing anything, just cruising around, and you've
That was my perception.
Yeah. So you've just plucked them out from this thing, and they come and be extras for your fun.
Yeah. For our fundraising, for my education, for my future and my career.
Right.
So then I went overseas, having done some fundraising, and also found a patron.
Did they enjoy it? Did they enjoy the experience with you?
I would assume that if people are 100% invested, that there's an element of enjoyment there.
Right.
But I didn't ask the question.
Right.
Needless to say, as part of our organisation activities, we ask the question all the time.
Right.
But there's also some clear indicators, like people turning up.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting to have this conversation and realise that, those things you just do intuitively, and decisions that you make based on, because actually everything that we do now comes from that experience.
Yeah.
And so then I went overseas and studied, and obviously Sarah's my best friend, so we kept up, and she was in London. She was working at very high level in the corporate environment, but she'd had that music training as well.
So she had a proper job.
She had a proper job. Shut up. Yep, she did. And she did. And she was she was able to pay her rent on time, etc. But I think she's always recognised the enormous value and the impact of having that performance training on her ability to read people, to sell an idea to people, to be diplomatic, to not just be pushing her own agenda, because you are always part of a team. You cannot be, there's no such thing as there's no such thing as really a soloist in that kind of performance environment. You need so many people backstage, pre-production, to be the best you can be.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So she's really, she lives and breathes that, and she's always in demand as a person who helps teams work together better and helps drive, so from strategic is her work. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you still haven't got over the fact that she had a proper job and you didn't. But hey, that's okay.
Oh, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so you're back over there.
Yep. So we're back over there. And so then I got pregnant in 2000, I don't know, 8,
With some
Yes,
help? With
my husband.
With help from somebody else?
Yeah. So sorry, he's actually quite instrumental when it comes. He's sort of the artistic director of what we do, but he also makes my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's about it, frankly.
Yeah.
And so we met when I was studying in London, and he was, he was actually a flautist, and as so many Spaniards are, because lots of outdoor wind bands. So lots of brass instruments, lots of instruments studied that project well outside. That's just information for you to put away for a rainy day to reflect on.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome. And so he then...
It's put down half morning this morning. It's good. Are you enjoying it?
I just, I think it's being in the safety of my own home.
You really are, yeah.
Anyway, so he's very much... He's a conductor. He was training as a conductor there as well. And because he leads the artistic side of the programs, it's good for you to understand. And
you were a singer, and you thought the conductor was cute.
No, I ran a mile, but he was, he was
fast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
He saw all these signs with a kiwi fruit in the fruit bowl. He read all these signs. He read the auspices, and then he's totally, I had no...
He was powerless.
Yeah, I was powerless.
Okay.
Anyway, so we decided to move back to New Zealand when I became pregnant with our first child.
Mm-hmm.
It was the beginning of the downturn, and we were working in Vienna together in an opera, and it just felt really demoralising, the sort of the outlook. So we came back to New Zealand and thought, if we have to mow lawns here, we'd rather do it here. And as it happened, we didn't have to. We decided to begin this organisation with Sarah, and we thought, well, we can do what we're trained to do here, and we can provide an opportunity to ask a lot more of kids locally, because we know they're capable of more. But the opportunity isn't there for them to be in an environment that will support them to achieve that more.
Is that going back to the standard of that youth choir?
I think so, absolutely. Yeah, well, just the expectation that we wouldn't fail if we did the work.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think having a high expectation of people, who wastes their bloody time having a high expectation of somebody that they know cannot meet that expectation? And so you immediately trust that, if you set out on that journey, you're going to be able to achieve it. So your perception of what you can achieve yourself is totally shifted forever. And I think that's probably the biggest. So we run Project Prima Volta is a weekly program of 30 kids who get together and work on predominantly classical music together, which Jose teaches them in another language.
40 minutes into the interview.
You're right.
You finally told us what the hell you do.
I don't know. When we first communicated about this, you said you mentioned leeway.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. Okay, so let's start again.
Yeah.
Third restart.
Yeah.
This is 30 kids.
Yeah.
From Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, and a real cross section from lots of different schools across that sort of decile rating, if you like. Yeah.
Yep.
But there is a predominance of kids who don't have access to resource.
Right.
Yeah.
And they come together once a week?
Yes, unless we're working towards a stage performance. Okay. And also we're teaching them one-on-one lessons now as well, post-lockdown.
Are these all singers? Are they...
Everyone is a singer, half. Everyone's a singer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shit, you want to see the look I'm getting across the... Okay, got that. Everyone's a singer. I'm a singer. You're a singer. Okay, so everyone's a singer.
Yeah, everyone's a singer.
Do they play instruments as well?
Not as part of the program, no, because we're sticking to our knitting. We know about the voice. We know how to train voices, and we know how to get voices ready to be their best on stage. So I mean, other instrumental work might fall out of that in their music departments at school, but our focus is the voice. Yeah. And
how do these kids find you? How do they get into the program?
And well, quite often, I mean, most all schools know about us now in Hawke's Bay, and so often, so we run auditions annually. And then if you've been in PPV and you want to stay, and we don't you can stay for as long as you like. So it's not means we don't have a high turnover because once people find their tribe, if they're happy, they want to stay in it. And sometimes that can be a problem.
Yep.
But especially if we're trying to fundraise.
Right.
And people say, well, why aren't you working with 90 each week? It's
right.
like, actually, that's not the golden number, actually, right. Because kids don't feel like you notice them. You can't build relationships with everybody. We can't get the transformation that is possible with that kind of number. Yeah.
That's fascinating because I've just interviewed a young woman in Greytown a month or so ago who's got a thing called the Blue School, and it caters for 30 kids from 3 to 6 years of age. And she sort of talked about that was this golden number of developing these kids who are 3 to 6. So your kids are teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. And are they all at school or some of them not at school?
No, some of them are homeschooled.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we know. I mean, going back to maybe we could talk about what we have observed as important to them to be together each week, is to be together in the same room.
Connecting.
And just, in break time or listening to one of Jose's stories that he tells with alarming frequency about our lives together, or just that I think being in an environment where they're not with teachers necessarily, because we're very clear, your colleagues of ours. Yeah. And I'm invested in this, and I want you to be invested in it. So the expectation isn't just about the work, it's about the attitude, and it's about respect, and also helping them to understand exactly what every working part, how it works, so that their experience can be what it is. Yeah, so we're very transparent about that.
How many kids audition a year?
It varies, sort of up to 100. So it's not a.
That's a lot.
Well, yeah, I guess.
And then how many of that 100? How many do you take in?
Well, this year, for example, we took only 20 because we had 10 carried over from last year.
Yep.
Yeah. And so a good pathway for the kids that come through the program is to go to uni and study singing. And we've had a lot of success with kids who probably otherwise wouldn't have gone to university. So that reads very well on paper, but then you start wondering, well, what is the benefit of going to university?
Okay.
That's another thing.
Okay, all right. Well, let's back up the track before we get into that. Mm-hmm. You also put on an opera.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yeah. So that's not a little thing, Anna.
No, it's
so
not.
You've got these kids being 30 kids in the program once a week, okay, and then you've got the opera. So tell us about that.
So in year one of Project Prima Volta, so we came up with this idea of having a youth program and staging opera and teaching the kids about opera. And so we started Festival Opera, which is the opera company, and Project Prima Volta, which manages the youth program. And so, but in the first year, we realised that we needed some of those voices of those kids in the opera.
Oh,
so they weren't in the first year. They weren't. They created their own version, which they toured around high schools.
Okay.
But we really needed some of those voices. And then we got to the performances, just in the chorus. We got to the performances. So we brought in artists, which were actually mostly friends of Jose's and mine, who came out to New Zealand FOC and just, the soprano who sang in it arrived and lived with us for 6 weeks whilst with her husband and 4-year-old and nanny. So, again, we didn't know what we were really getting into. Anyway, so in this opera, the two...
FOC means what?
Free of charge.
Okay.
It might not be a thing. I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like it could...
So I was trying to work out what, but I just come up with naughty things. So I thought,
no.
Okay, so these were mates of yours came out from Europe to sing in your opera.
Yeah, to see New Zealand as well.
Yeah, see New Zealand, have a bit of fun, hang out in your back room with their nanny and 4-year-old kids.
Yeah.
Sounds ghastly. And then and people paid money to go to the opera? Bought tickets?
Yep. Yeah, and it, really importantly, as Sarah and I sat so Jose conducted the opera and pulled the orchestra together and trained everybody.
Are you sure you're not just using Jose for his conducting?
Yeah, that's such a good question.
Yeah,
I have to come back to that.
Jose will never listen to this.
I tell you what, I mean, people really, if people put forward a skill and they say it's available to you, Anna, or a resource, it's available to you, Anna, they literally have to fake their own deaths in order to get away from me.
Right.
So yeah, that's possibly what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I know that when people have the opportunity to use it in a certain way in this context, that they're going to be glad they did it. And I hope to make that sure of that. And I make every effort to make sure of that. I think that's key. So I'm not alluding to anything. Anyway, so Jose is quite involved.
Are you okay with this podcast going up?
I wasn't going down that road. You were. I could tell from your eye contact anyway. Okay. So he's got really great skills which are relevant to what we're trying to do, and so in the first couple of years. After year one, and we realised that actually these kids were hugely compelling on stage, and they got a lot out of being on stage with those international artists. Yeah,
what a buzz!
Yeah, and it was super important. They were the first baritone we brought up with Gary Griffiths from Wales. So I can do that.
Yes,
and he was so excited that he was coming to New Zealand because it was going to be fantastic. And he came out, and when he did some coaching with the PPV kids, and he did some coaching with the two guys, Alfred and Emmanuel, who were in the opera, and he said to them in the first coaching session, they sang a line from his aria from the opera, so he was coaching them in the aria that he was singing himself, and he said, "Look at that! I mean, if I had a voice like that when I was your age, I'd be a massive, massive star." Now I've launched into Northern Irish, but Anyway, so I realised the power of having someone who owed them nothing, who had no sort of personal relationship with them before that point, could then say, "I think you've got what it takes." I realised that was hugely powerful for these kids, Alfred and Manuel, in the honours year at Waikato University doing singing, and they're incredible singers, both of them, and incredible leaders. And Gary's comment in that moment helped me to understand another important piece in our puzzle, in that formula, so the high expectation, but also bringing in people who could say, "Shit, you're amazing," because actually sometimes when mums and dads say, "Shit, you're amazing," then they're not, how do I say this without sounding like a complete arse? Then they haven't had the opportunity to understand whether or not that is the case.
Yeah.
So it's not an educated opinion.
Yeah.
It's just I love you, so you're amazing.
Yeah, it's biased.
And actually it sets kids up to be hugely disappointed or a wanker.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but coming from someone like that is not vested in your world, that doesn't have to say that
doesn't love you. And fundamentally, I think kids need to be around people. I feel like this for my own children. They need to be around people who don't just love them, actually, so they can bloody work. To demonstrate.
I've never heard that said before.
Oh, maybe it's. I was.
No, that's good. I like new stuff. That's a really interesting point, isn't it?
Well, because I just think I don't know. I mean, it's just.
No, this is good. This is good. Don't.
God.
No, don't.
This certainly not the world's best parent.
It's the only interesting thing you've said all morning.
Get out.
No, look,
Yeah.
No, I think that's really bloody interesting, Anna.
I think at a fundamental level, we all love each other, and I think we do. Because there have been so many experiments that have social media experiments, like the sort of going and hugging people and, that you have no relationship with, or looking into someone's eyes for 4 minutes, which builds a connection. I think on this very very base level, we all do care about each other deeply, but society's, the jostling and the sort of focus on individual success and wanting to claim the prize of being a self-made man, and just the emphasis that's put on the individual makes it hard for us to remember that.
Okay. You talk about, having this opera. So you've been in operas over in Europe, where you were just a bit part. You did your, but you were a singer, right? But then you come back here and you're talking about putting the whole thing together.
I just think everyone's a fucking bit part in this world.
Right.
Yes. And I'm really interested in the science of awe, because when people experience being in something incredible, you go to the Grand Canyon, the way people respond to experiencing something that is much bigger than them, than they could ever have conceived of, and they haven't been instrumental in creating and all of that sort of thing. Their experiences, they feel very small. Mm-hmm. There's been TED Talks and there's science out there, et cetera, et cetera. But I find this whole idea really compelling, because I realise that plays into what we do as well, is that it's incredibly powerful to stand next to an opera singer who's singing at the max and creating, and their voice is projecting across a 50-piece orchestra. It is awesome. And it makes people feel comfortable being small. That's the other thing about standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon, is that we are totally comfortable being insignificant. And I think fundamentally, everybody needs a bit more of that in their lives. You need to be comfortable not to be the most important person in the room, to be a bit part. That's my personal view.
I always knew this interview was going to be interesting.
I mean, apart from me, no.
Apart from you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you created this opera from nothing over here. Did you ever think, fuck, what am I doing?
I'm sorry, you haven't been listening. We didn't start it from nothing. There's been years and years and years of people, of music teachers teaching, of people buying tickets to go to the opera. We didn't start in a vacuum. The only reason we're successful is because of all the work that happened for years and years and years before us. Do
you want me to apologise?
No, I'm not apologising. I'm just.
No, me. Do you want me to apologise?
Oh no, no. I think no, it's fine. I don't mind. Shit, whether or not you listen to me isn't going to change whether or not I talk.
Okay.
Just by the way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. But no fear factor about putting this together.
Well, I think it comes out of. I think that just came from a naivety, and the sort of, how hard can it be,
Right.
Not because I'm super clever or highly resourced, but just because I was naive. And I think that being bold like that is really just, I wanted opera in my life, and I wanted to share it, and I wanted to, I wanted meaning here in Hawke's Bay, and I knew that if I were a singing teacher, and that was probably the alternative, I would go insane, because where do you direct people?
Right.
How do you, and how was I going to grow as an artist as well? Because I think,
Right.
And I love a challenge. God, I love a challenge.
Yes, you so do.
Yeah.
How have you, since the inception, how have you developed as a person because of this project?
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge, that my right-hand lady, which is Sarah, and obviously Jose as well, because...
Answer the fucking question.
I know. I don't know. I think it's enabled me to see how much more people are capable of than when you see them at face value. Yeah, it's that. And in lots of different ways. And that the people that present themselves as being valuable to you, generally they're not. Do you know what I mean? It's like that whole, as well, the whole do-gooder mentality. that often people's estimation of the value that they bring your organisation, the impact they're making. Let's say someone makes a cake for you as a donation. The cake is often much more important to them in the gesture than the difference that it makes. And so running a charity, when you've got people like that feeding into it, becomes extremely hard because arguably,
yes, yes, I do.
So managing all of those sorts of things is really interesting, but it does mean that when I come into contact with people, I just think I look at them differently, and that's been wonderful because it makes life so rich.
There is a great belief. It came from a Jewish philosopher in Detroit when I first heard this, and he said that he believed that nobody does anything for anybody else. They
Totally
only
agree.
do it for themselves. Right? They do it for themselves first and foremost. And that was a really interesting thought for me, because I went, okay, and because people would love to get the jollies for doing things for other people, but ultimately they're doing it for themselves.
Yes.
And I heard him on stage being challenged, and they said, what about Mother Teresa?
Oh my God, I was just about to use that example. I've always said she wasn't selfless.
No.
Because it gives you so much to give.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah. I mean, why don't people get that? I just don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not about making you a better person. It's incredibly satisfying. Totally know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I hope you were going to be agreeing.
No, I was going to say something totally different. No, I do. That's the first time we've agreed all morning.
Oh.
That's good. Yeah. Tick that
well,
off.
You'll be singing later. Maybe we can agree about,
Okay,
Taunt.
so I went to one of your operas. Emma.
Yes.
And it was fascinating because I was waiting for the kids to come on.
Yeah.
But they were already on stage. I couldn't tell the difference between the kids and the professionals.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating because I kept on going, where are the kids? And you couldn't tell the difference. It was just, and look, I don't know anything about opera. I did learn that the Italians go on a lot because you had the, I think, oh, for fuck's sake, get on with it. But it was just, it didn't really hit me until the end. I went, oh my God, the kids were on there the whole time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell the difference between those and the professionals.
Yeah. But we know that when people are led by not just someone with expertise, but someone who operates respectfully and believes that you can do what they're asking. And so their strategy to get the result they're looking for, and the way they connect with these kids and artists alike, all reflects that. And I think, it's been always very important, the people that we have around us, the team, the creative team. It's been super important. If we have worked, we've brought in other people who we felt would add value, and who presented as if they'd add value, but was so at odds with the way that these kids need to be seen, that it just didn't work,
Now, for people outside of Hawke's Bay, Napier, Hastings area is a fascinating microcosm because you've got, such a wide range of deciles and privilege in that space, right?
Yep,
so you go from the extreme privilege to extreme poverty, right, within kilometres of each other. How do you manage that?
Well, our program, including the opera, annually runs at about $500,000. So we fundraise for that throughout the year. So we don't pass any cost on to anybody. And not only does that make access to the program equitable, but it also means that we can do whatever we want. We don't have to take other interests into consideration. We feel a very, very, very strong drive to provide a platform for kids who don't have one. And so we are able, because there's no cost issue, to to target where it's needed, so that when it comes to transport support, providing food at all rehearsals that are longer than 2 hours. Well, actually, we provide food at all rehearsals, because teenagers are hungry. It's sort of removing those challenges for kids, so that a conversation doesn't need to be, I need to take $10 for this, or this program costs, or even if kids can pay, we don't.
So it's a level playing field.
Yeah.
Anna, you're bringing kids in that would have never experienced opera in their in their family's history.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you broach that?
The thing is, opera is basically extreme singing, and a lot of the kids we're talking about who deserve the support do sing a lot in their lives. So that was also very present in our decision early on. Was right. Let's provide a platform where kids who with a reward of being recognised for a cultural tendency or cultural norm is really public. You with me?
Not quite.
So, particularly what we know, in our organisation of Māori and Pasifika culture, which are very distinct from each other in lots of different ways, but the singing together is a commonality.
Yep.
And so it wasn't lost on us that by establishing an opera company, providing the training, building a singing program, we would be creating a platform where kids who already had that ability to connect in that way would achieve success.
Okay.
Remembering for myself that National Youth Choir was the first environment where people were really like, wow, I think you can do this, Anna, as in the choir director.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? So that's an important environment for a young person.
But Anna, you are an imposing white woman.
Yes, very true.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you make yourself not being some scary bitch to them?
Well, I don't hide anything. I think I don't know. I just go on and be myself. And if I make a mistake or risk offending or, how do I explain it? You just have to trust, referring back to that base instinct we all have to gravitate towards each other irrespective of what we see. You have to trust that that's there, even though it might not be the first thought that enters the other person's head. So I think trusting that, because it's always there. It's always there.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Malcolm Gladwell's just come out with a new book, and he's got a great video up there talking about trust, promoting the book, and he said trust is wonderful 95% of the time.
Yeah.
And he said you're making, and he's got some great examples of the Cold War where trust and so forth, just everything broke down. He said, but we forget how effective trust is, and it is not foolproof, and there will be absolutely calamities, but trust is phenomenally powerful. Yeah. So are you talking about being vulnerable with the kids? Are you talking about just being yourself with them?
Yep. No, definitely. I think if they see... Well, I think being yourself with someone is being vulnerable, isn't it? Because you are sort of warts and all. It's funny because my relationship with my husband is very...
The conductor.
Yeah. He, I like the whole teasing thing that I grew up with is, it's very present, but it's only one way really in my relationship. And I know that it's incredibly jarring for people to be around because they can't imagine that anybody would not be torn to strips or, would not be reduced by... I mean, I'm not vicious at all, but I do like to,
You like having fun?
I do, because that was how we did it, and I'm just Where am I going with this? I don't know. I'm also like that with the kids, not to the same degree, but I am just who I am.
Right.
And I just trust that they'll know that I love them.
Right.
And that's not in question.
Right.
And they'll challenge it just like your own children do. They'll challenge it by,
They'll test it.
Yeah, they'll test it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna, what's your biggest buzz? What's your biggest buzz from this work?
I think it's a really good point. Recently, one of the biggest buzzes for me has been seeing my own children get excited by, those relationships have always been strong with my own children and the PPV kids and graduates, and I do enjoy that they have that in their lives. I'm really grateful for that. I think in terms of buzz, I get a buzz now, and you'll probably have a sense of this from my time in CQ, is being able to balance life, actually, to be able to sometimes perform, majority of the time empower others to perform, to be able to be focused enough to manage my life in a way that I find satisfactory. I think that's...
There you go. I wasn't expecting that.
Really?
Yeah. But I absolutely get it, because and I've seen you totally wrung out at times.
Yeah.
Absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
Stretched every which way, and so when you say that, I go, oh yeah, because it's not an easy thing to do.
No. But also, we've got a really good team. Our trustees are amazing. And I've got Sarah alongside, and I feel very fortunate.
And you talked about these kids coming through. And I know you've had some wonderful successes from the lower decile schools. I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, but we'll just use that. Less privileged kids coming through your program that have got a sense of leadership, have got a sense of purpose, and have gone on. So I was expecting that to be your buzz when you talked about that.
That is not my success. That's theirs.
Isn't that a great answer?
And we've already all got our own goals.
That's a great answer.
Well,
yeah, because that's up to them.
It's it is up to them, and in fact, my patron was Dr. Ian Pryor, who was an epidemiologist, and he was very active with the Wellington Sculpture Trust in Masterton originally, and he always said to me, those to whom much is given, much is expected. And I never interpreted that as being I'd like this investment to play out, so it's beneficial to the greater community. Thank you, Anna. It was never like that. It was never delivered like that. He was Presbyterian. It was it seemed to me to be just something that he said. I didn't think about it. But I think when you make an investment in people, much is expected for them and the people that they come into contact with. And in my case, I hope for much, but it's not tied into my feelings of satisfaction yet. It's still early days, really. I do feel a great sense of inspiration from the kids.
Yeah, but that's different.
It is different. And the other thing about my family is we never use the word pride. My parents never said, "We're so proud of you," ever. Which probably ties into me wanting my kids to be around people that don't love them. It sounds like I hate my children. But it's my parents always said, your success has no... So again, it is obviously inherited, this perspective. Although I do tell my children I'm proud of them. But they just didn't like the idea that it was connected to them. They admired us.
Yeah.
It's just a sort of.
But the thing is, I'm thinking about this, Anna. One, it gives you more freedom.
Yes.
And it gives them more freedom because it's their thing to get on and do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Because having that weight of expectancy with it, that can be really heavy.
This is extremely heavy across the decile gamut. Incredibly heavy here at this highly resourced end. And so those shoulders can be dragging, and that has a massive impact as well. So I think sometimes being very resourced carries with it an extremely high expectation.
Yeah, because the mental health of some of these kids is not that great, right? Because they've got to succeed to live up to whatever. They've had all this investment and they've got to, Anna, this has been fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
For me, anyway.
Same.
And I had my coffee this morning. I thought, fuck, I need to be sharp this morning because I thought we'll go all over the place, and we sort of have. And I realise you've got to get on and do whatever you do in your day. Yeah. What do you want to round up this conversation with, Anna?
Well, I think it would have to be that for me, every child who has music in their life every day is going to be happier. Is going to be happier. If they have music education, if they're informed, if they can appreciate music, if it becomes a language that they speak, they'll be more successful. We know this. So they'll be happier and more successful. And that success is not going to be based on measures like wealth, maybe. But we know that that's not, wealth doesn't mean happiness, that those two things don't go hand in hand. I would love for listeners to be able to bring music into their day, essentially, to listen to it differently and not as a person who feels threatened because they don't understand it. We don't understand the Grand Canyon.
It's funny, that's just conjured up a memory for me because, when I said I didn't have music as a kid, I just realised that's not true.
Go on.
Well, I remember singing with my father, Don't Fence Me In, on the back of the tractor, and we would be going along on this little Ferguson tractor and on the trail, and we'd sing this thing at the top of it, right? The two of us, he'd be driving on the back, and we'd sing Don't Fence, I'd forgotten that. And that just came back to me then. I remember the smell of the mud on the tyres and so forth, and we were singing at the bloody top of our, and it's funny that the whole smell, everything came back to me, bang, just like that. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I did have music, different to yours, but it was there.
No, I had that too.
Yeah. And that really bonded my father and I.
So there we see where the singing together
and
is.
In that space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna, good luck with the project going forward. Keep up the good work, and and good luck with the balance.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a wonderful answer because to get a buzz out of balance, I think that is. Do you think you might be maturing, Anna? Do you think that could be a sign of maturity?
Yeah.
Yeah? Or getting grown up and all that sort of stuff?
I don't know.
Should I hope not?
Still.
Okay. We should sign off before we start talking. Anna, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I've loved it. I've loved it.
You've loved it. You've just been listening to an episode of Stuff That Matters Now, brought to you by Collective Intelligence. I hope you enjoyed listening to the fun stuff, the rugged stuff, and the complete stuff-ups that have helped this particular Collective Intelligence member evolve while making the world a better place. Do check out our Stuff That Matters Now podcast series on your favourite podcast provider or visit our website www.collectiveintelligence.co.nz to get links to new episodes. Contact us if you want to learn more about how we can help you evolve yourself and others. Thanks for listening.